Bullshit Gaming Podcast 2.5 Gamers, session 15. It's 15, guys. So we are discussing the latest news, fun stuff, and dropping some knowledge. And, guys, please don't forget, this is a 4 a.m. conference discussion vibe. Let's not take that too seriously. We're discussing always the fun news. Okay, so let's dive a little bit into the topics. But before we do that, we are getting some heat, and we love it. We're making new friends of our podcast, and we are seeing a nice increase of the viewership and a nice increase on the listenership side as well. So we got actually corrected on some of the things that we discussed. So thank you very much, guys, for doing that, because we obviously don't know everything, but we are trying to discuss everything that is happening in our lives and campaigns and everything. So do we have any comments on that, Felix?
Yeah, absolutely. So after releasing our episode, our friends Applovin actually reached out and explained me actually a couple of things. What I said actually wasn't true in all cases. So I actually had a warped understanding, and they were nice enough to clear it up, and I actually learned something new. And, you got to be humble enough to say when, you didn't have the correct information. So just want to correct 3 small things from the how to read ad monetization data, the Applovin episode we had, last episode. So
number 14.
There's 3 things I want to clear up. So on the 37-minute mark, basically I said that all auctions have to be done within 300 milliseconds or they get kicked out of the auctions. That's actually not true, and it wasn't true. So as long as there's lines left, attempts will be made in a waterfall, and basically even if there's no fill, they'll continue to request every single line in the waterfall. So that kind of just echoes a bit more why it's so important not to have too many placements, because if you have a placement in the waterfall, they will get called no matter what. So if you have 120 calls, you will go, the bidder will go, or like the algorithm will go through each and every one of them, but it might take, 20 minutes for an ad to load. So that's why you can't have too many of them. Second thing is, at the 43 placement mark is when you start seeing latency. So I said that around minute 38. So what I said was Applovin Max usually skips a torso. So that relates to the last point I made. Applovin won't skip any lines in the waterfall, but basically it will pretty much run through until the end of the waterfall is reached. So there's no limit on going through the whole waterfall. So what can happen is you just won't have an ad load, but it will, their system will never actually skip any parts of the waterfall, but you might actually not have an ad load. So at the 39 minutes, 15-second mark, I also said that if you have less than 0.03 fill in any of the top 10 placements, it screws up the bidder somehow. Applovin says that this is not true, and they do recommend that if you have high fill or high placement calls, that you do isolate it to a specific geo to avoid latency. So those are the 3 things I learned from that episode, and sorry, guys.
Now I know where they are coming from with the pronunciation of Applovin, because you are saying it very closely to Applovin.
But English is not my first language. Applovin, McLovin, it's just
McLovin as well, okay.
But actually did get some heat from that as well. So Applovin. That's how you say it. Not loving. So, there's no N there. There's no ing.
Yeah. Sorry for that. So what we are going to discuss today, Applovin acquires Wordle, just continuing the commenting on our friends from Applovin, obviously. Then we have mobile game revenue decreased for its first time in Q1 2022. Then we have M&A report discussion and report from Anton from InvestGame. And then the most interesting part everybody's looking forward to, the basics of UA. I'm going to talk about the KPIs we should be looking at. In the first stage, where the game is still an idea, then a second stage where you have playable, scaling the game, and some trends for 2022. And then we have some UA myths at the end, which I think Jakub is very keen on asking.
Those pop up all the time, so let's see.
Yeah, in my regular life as well. And And honestly, I really hope I will be able to record the whole podcast because I'm not sure like what's happening here in the US, but internet is really shitty. So
Nothing new.
Yeah, nothing new. And there's always some noise in the background. I feel like I'm in the airplane actually. So sorry for that. And my MacBook is obviously getting really old. So yesterday when we were, guys were recording. I was supposed to record the Slovak podcast as well, but then I just appeared for 30 seconds and then I disappeared because my MacBook died.
Man, like you're in the state that brought us the MacBook. Just buy the M1 and like enough's enough.
I know,
like,
yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. My wife told me already, like, you told me this like 2 years ago. You're bitching about the MacBook, but you still didn't buy one. Like, are you broke or something? You cheap fuck. So yeah, I guess I had to. I just have to buy a new one. Yeah, but step by step. Yeah,
Cool.
let's dive into the news.
So let me start off with this because honestly, I think this is my favorite story of the last like 18 months at least, because this is a true mobile Cinderella story that happens very rarely. So we reported on, I believe it was episode 3, that when New York Times took over Wordle, there was a random app on the App Store that was run under a developer name that was a first name and a last name, Stephen Carvata. Essentially saw a huge spike in installs. We worked out on that episode that we estimated that this app, Wordle app, was making roughly around $18,000 a day in ad revenues because of this spike. I, being super nosy and, couldn't leave it alone, added Stephen Carvata on LinkedIn and said congrats. He gave me a thumbs up and said, thanks, buddy. So, I actually have a little tiny part of the story. Not a major one, I do admit, but a tiny one. So the news is that Stephen Carvata's Wordle app has been bought by Applovin's Apple Studios. So he has taken the money and run, and this is probably one of the beautiful stories, because if you think about it, if you're making around $18,000 a day in ad revenue, which we pretty sure is true based on their DAU and how many impressions you get served.
Yeah, be careful, man.
No, okay, fine.
Be careful.
I have no inside information on this. This is just me counting it on episode 3. But anyway, so...
Yeah.
So... using that as a basis, so 18,000 a day times 365, that's around, 6.5 million. So even if he got maybe a 1.5, or maybe even a 2x, that's a very, very healthy exit. And it's like, the stuff of mobile legends that I think you heard a lot, like 2013, 14, 15. But then these kind of, unicorn Cinderella stories just stopped happening when the market started consolidating. And I just think it's a beautiful story. And, Stephen, being my connection on LinkedIn, congratulations.
Congrats.
Congrats.
Yeah, you don't see much of these days, that like a single guy makes this amount of an exit.
Well, like the beautiful thing about the story is, like, from what I could see...
Just wait for my exit from my company.
But the thing is, I think he had like a 9-to-5 job, like somewhere for like 4 years, and just had the app up. So it's just like a nice bonus that happened to him. So kudos.
Yeah, pretty nice bonus indeed.
Yeah.
Well, congrats again.
Yeah, congrats. Yeah. Enough unicorns and Cinderellas. Let's get down to brass tacks and talk about something a bit more dark.
Yeah. Current this week's crash in crypto.
No. Let's not. Yeah, let's not talk about it. I accidentally opened my Coinbase app and just cried.
I turned off notifications. I don't want anything to do with it. Solana, you're killing me.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, like, I should get my wallet out and just start buying this shit.
You should buy a new computer. That's what you should buy.
I wanted to buy it with Bitcoin, but now I can't.
Okay, but let's get to the actual news. So there's a Sensor Tower report saying that mobile game revenue decreased for the first time ever in Q1 2022. That means that the player spending decreased by 6% year over year, from 22.6 billion to 21.2 billion. Compared to the first quarter of 2020, however, this is still up by almost 20%. So I'm guessing this is pretty much the COVID bump showing itself in the data, whereas the market is still kind of healthier after that 2020, where if I get that right, COVID really in the world started in, what was it, like March or something like that, 2020, if I get it right. So, because there's Chinese New Year when it started, this was like February 2020, so I was somewhere there. So that could be like a good period to compare to. And regarding the games that are there as the staples in the charts, Honor of Kings and PUBG Mobile, of course, are dominating the top, with Genshin Impact in the third place. And then for the first time since the pandemic began, Pokemon Go has fallen out of the top 10, and only one new game got into a top position this quarter, and that was, unsurprisingly, Lineage V or W. Yeah, which in, like, I looked through it, it looks like Diablo Immortal is pretty much a Lineage action RPG. And
yeah,
Lineage is pretty much like a safe bet. It's like a religion in South Korea, whatever you do with it. It makes a lot of money. Yeah, and not as high in the revenue, the most downloaded game of the quarter was Garena Free Fire.
Ooh, nice.
So,
okay.
I mean, it sounds a bit like a clickbaity, like, news title, right? Because, I mean, you studied psychology, right, Remo?
Yeah.
So what's the first thing that you do when you have a set of numbers and you have one number that's really big and out of whack? You eliminate the outlier, right? Before you make your, like,
anchoring the context?
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
You had the biggest spike and you're comparing that to, like, last year when everyone was in lockdown.
Yeah, it was something like we talked about the Rovio report last time, where they're reporting increase, but if it put it on the whole line of like 5 years from the IPO, it's actually flatline. So this seems to be like the same tactic here. But yeah, overall, it's like.
But is it the same tactic? Because this is COVID influence, but then the Rovio piece or the numbers, actually, yeah, it was the M&A of the Ruby games, and I mean it's still like part of their portfolio, so it's not the same. You can't compare.
No, that was downloads. We're talking revenue.
Okay.
Revenue was a different story. Even Ruby games can help you there.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, but I would say it's still kind of healthy because I guess everybody understands that the growth was not healthy or sustainable long term. It was just like the boost from COVID.
Yeah.
And yeah, it says here that it's still kind of more than it was before COVID hit. So I guess the trend is continuing to have a growth direction, but it's not just that, as big as before COVID. So we'll see.
Well, really looking forward to 2022 and then the year after. To see like how it actually grows.
Yeah, I would say this is the year of consolidation, not only in a way that like
I heard that millions of times already. Oh, this is the year of consolidation.
But look at the stock market of gaming companies and you will understand why it looks like that.
Okay. I know. It's looking really interesting. Let's say that way. Yeah, interesting is the right word here. But then I think we can move on to the M&A part, and Anton from Invest came the report that he is doing on like quarterly basis. So now the report says that the M&A activity is kind of declining, even though we see quite a lot of activities on the blockchain side of things. But we need to mention that like we could see a boost of the Microsoft M&A, and then and that was in 2021. So we saw the Microsoft acquisition of ZeniMax, then the Embracer acquisition of Asmodee, but then regardless of everything, we see now it's a downward trend in 2022.
Yeah.
So
that's also because
interesting.
The two acquisitions, the big ones that we heard this year, are still not counting in because they didn't happen yet.
They didn't happen yet. Yeah,
potentially could not happen also.
Yeah, that's your bet. I know.
That's not my bet. That's just what the market is saying. If you look at the stock price.
Yeah. Okay. Then we have there's some more numbers, and so it says that private investment escalated considerably between Q1 2022 2021 and Q1 2022 in number of deals from 146 to 174, and the deal value from 2.3 billion to 3.2 billion. So interesting numbers. And then blockchain-related gaming M&A attracted around 50% of these
investments,
these numbers and investments. And that's not gonna slow down, I think.
Yeah, that's
maybe
the usual culprits there. 450 million seed round for Yuga Labs, our favorite apes. Then 4 billion at 4 billion valuation. There's Animoca with 359 million at 5 billion valuation, and then there's Immutable Series C, which, if I get it right, is a gaming protocol at 200 million value at 2.72 billion. So
yeah, and in well, not normal, but in free-to-play space, we saw the 255 million Series C for Dream Games at the
Royal Match,
5 billion Royal Match, yeah, and then that game company raising 160 million from Sequoia and TPG. Oh, okay, so what to do with this? What should we?
Yeah, it's interesting.
What should we see as a trend?
This piece of news is interesting because it even said that 50% of the private investment was going into blockchain, which on the other hand means that it even says in the article, gaming investment activity into pure gaming companies has declined from 96 deals to just 52 deals. From like 2.7 billion to just 1 billion. And I'm hearing this more and more that pretty much investors are nowadays not that interested into your, next Clash of Clans or next Clash Royale. They would rather want to have Clash of Clans on blockchain.
Next Clash Royale, you mean the new Warcraft game?
Oh, yeah, that one. There's actually a really interesting game called Heroes of Mavia that I saw, which is actually Clash of Clans on blockchain. They already raised like 8 million.
Of course they.
Yeah. So there's like a lot of these currently, and whatever you do, if you put it on blockchain, it's much more attractive to be an investment target these days.
Yes, but the thing is, you don't get the investment so easily anymore, and if you don't have the game first, I think it's going to be really hard to get.
Yeah, that's the thing. That until this point, I think everybody was gaining the investment without anything, no prototype,
based on the
nothing.
PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, PowerPoint presentation. We're going to be better than Axie. Maybe do some better job with the economy, hopefully, and then here's the money.
Hopefully.
Go. I think after this week, it will be much harder.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean. Everything announced after this week of the correction on the crypto market, it's gonna be really, really hard. But this is something that happens always.
It's healthy.
Every
to
year
happen.
there is a correction.
It's healthy to happen to get the fraud out of the market because these decisions pretty much breed malinvestment in the end. So now do you have much healthier players in the market?
I really don't get how everybody's surprised when it happens. I mean, this is it happens every year around this time, or maybe in summer. Everything just crashes, and now oh well, crypto is dead, everything, blockchain is dead. Seriously, come on, guys, where were you?
I think there's an investment term: sell in May and then be away. Go on holiday.
Sell in May. Yeah, I know that May. One.
Yeah, but I remember also my early days in finance. I remember asking the director who was 6 levels above me when I was snot-nosed, little nothing. I asked him oh, what do you think of this crash? And he's it's sunny, it's cloudy, and it's you don't care. It's just part of the normal cycle. That's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well,
until you work in Lehman Brothers.
Well, anyway,
this is the selling
but come
part
on,
this May, so
it's quite interesting now.
Next year.
They're deploying so much capital for blockchain gaming, and we all know these mammoth companies that come around that actually do something great. That takes about 10 years to do, and for people to start admitting wow, this is something new and different. So in 4 or 5 years, that's when we'll see the best of these actually coming out with cool stuff that actually go oh, there's something here. So it's just.
I think in 4 or 5 years we already need to see what's coming out of that Mark Zuckerberg's Meta promise. Everything's going to be saved by metaverse.
Banging on the Zuck.
In blockchain world, it's not going to be 4 to 5 years. It's going to be 4 to 5 months because it's changing so rapidly. Anymore, yeah.
I'm just praying there's ads in the metaverse because otherwise there's There's not going to be a big need for ad monetization.
Oh man, I'm telling you, there will be ads. Like I read upon this when I was doing my thesis at the psychology thing that we talk about, and ads are gonna be like something completely different in the metaverse if it happens like it was described there. Like
it will happen, and
that's gonna be personalized NPCs that will be custom tailored to your hobbies, to your preferences. Like a person will approach you and start telling you about the best thing that he bought, and it will be like a person. It won't be.
So Matej will come up and tell me to buy a Kit Kat.
Yes, exactly. And they will, the eye tracking and everything on top of that. Like you can pretty much mirror people and increase the likeness.
Look at him. Look at him. How
if someone wants to dig into
skeptic.
this, go there and dig into the virtual human interaction on Stanford Lab. They already have studies on this 20 years ago. Like I'm telling you.
I love it. There's nothing more beautiful than ads.
Yeah, exactly.
Take that, game designer Remo.
Look at Jakub. He's really always a skeptic, and now he's like, "Oh well, we will go on."
I'm not a skeptic. I'm just describing what will happen.
Oh, it's really great because you have these glasses on, and the light is coming out behind you.
By the way, that was the lab. That was the lab that pretty much convinced Mark Zuckerberg to buy Oculus by the time.
Yeah. But what you are describing, Jakub, I already saw some deck actually from one company that is building this NPC-related ads, and it's not only NPC, but also T-shirts of the characters, signs on the roads, and billboards within the game and stuff like that. So, I mean, people are already thinking about it and making it happen, but it's still far from being
any moment
built. It's we'll see.
Should we move on to our new success segment, UA for beginners?
Well, luckily, I won't name any UA channel. It can come after me. Oh, well, maybe I will. You don't know what's going to happen. Usually, I get banned on Facebook or any other UA channel. So, yeah, that's all me. So, yeah, okay. So let's discuss the basics of the UA. And well, I always get a question when do you think UA should start collaborating with the game team, and what's the best time, basically? And I always say, look, as early as possible is really great, because then we can do a lot of things before even the game is in production, and when the game is still an idea, how does the UA help, and what are the metrics or KPIs we can even look at. So UA can help you just before trying to brainstorm the idea for the game with market research, definition of the target audience, because it's really important to know what is your target audience and who you are building the game for. With the keyword research as well, that's really important to just grasp the potential keyword discoverability and impressions, and then marketability tests with the focus on the CTRs, and then even the connection, the marketability test with the service, because that's kind of a interesting thing that you can do even before starting to build the game. So why I'm saying focusing on the CTR, it's mainly because these days we have all these tools like Splitmetrics, GeekLab, and kudos to Jesse. I love you for doing such a good job on the tool side for GeekLab. And a lot of people just use GeekLab for doing these marketability tests, but it's really, really, really confusing sometimes, and we already discussed it in the session number 10 with the marketability test, so I won't go there. But just looking at the CTRs at this point is important, because the CPIs are not the real CPIs you can get. So just be careful. In terms of the moving forward from the stage where you have only the idea to actually the stage where you have a playable game. So what is the setup that you can do for a soft launch, or what are the KPIs you are looking at? and testing when you have the actual build. So I always start from the technical point of view when you have the technical soft launch, because even after certain time in the development, you can be sure that nothing is going to work as intended, unfortunately. Even if you implemented all the SDKs, mobile measurement partners, Firebase, and everything, it's just most probably not going to work 100%. So the technical stage is exactly for that. So you're looking at the crash rates, comparing the number of installs between the different UA channels, MMPs, and you're trying to compare that to the iTunes and Google Store as well, because this is really important to look at before you start spending actually real money. And also, if you can hear that, my daughter agrees, of course.
Yes, I can.
Of course, she agrees. She's really a UA expert by now, being on the podcast with us. You're doing the basic ASO setup, keyword research, description writing, and then brainstorming the name of the game as well, and then moving to the retention stage, basically, where you just look at the day 1, day 3, day 7 retention numbers and the ratio between the day 1 and day 3 and day 7. That's also really important, because even though you have like 50% of day 1 retention and then you have 20% day 3, that's kind of not healthy that much. And you see like a lot of players churn right after day 1 or day 2, and you need to do something with that. But then looking at the FTUE onboarding flow, but also the actual UA metrics like CPI, IPM, which is installs per mile, the CTRs and the conversion rates on the creative level, because in this stage you can have multiple creatives trying to decrease the CPIs and get enough data points on the campaign level for measuring retention. But then if you are also testing creatives, it can be somehow misleading, because different creatives have also different retention profiles. So if you're using fake ads, you can have really low CPIs, but you can also have very low retention rates. And this is something that you definitely don't want when you are in the retention stage, basically. Yeah, but what else we have? Yeah,
wait.
Felix?
So you spoke here very eloquently, by the way. The first stage and the second stage, so the first stage, idea concept, and then when you have a playable game, say you're on a shoestring budget, how much money would you say, minimum you can spend here to actually get something valuable?
Yeah. In marketability tests, you can get results or some directions within a couple of hundreds dollars for the test.
So let's say 500, 600,
500, 500 to 1,000. You can definitely get something statistically significant, because you are using different optimizations rather than just mobile app installs, so it's cheaper. Then in the technical stage, you can have data for $100. It's just very small
low
budget.
Traffic. No.
Yeah, just to get a couple of hundreds of installs in the, let's say, Philippines, and then that's it. But then it gets a little bit more expensive in the retention and monetization stage. So in retention, it's usually anything from 5K to 10K a month, ideally even more, but just 200 daily installs, and that's pretty healthy for making any decisions. And then anything from 10K to 20K in the monetization stage, because you need payers, and the level of budget depends on the percentage of players to payers conversion.
Yeah, but this can be also much more depending on the game genre. Let's say if you have a PvP game with matchmaking, you need to actually have a healthy matchmaking, which requires a big CCU, or at least some kind of a larger CCU, which means you need the inflow of players all the time. So that can get much different between different type of genres, I guess.
Yeah, that's very true. But also in this case with PvP, you always mix the different optimizations methods. So for the CCU or the matchmaking to be able to happen, you just front load the traffic sources with the mobile app install optimization, and getting players for cheaper into the game, and then measure on the side the retention metrics with up event optimized campaigns, with engagement events. So anything from tutorial completion, level achieved, and stuff like that. So you're measuring actually on the quality traffic and not only the mobile app install traffic that these days, unfortunately, is pretty shitty. Just to say that right away. On Google, mobile app install optimization that's like really bad traffic, is always below every benchmark you can get. On Facebook is slightly better. On Unity is it's okay, it's decent, but it's still not what you wanna get. So that's why I always use like multiple sources in the soft launch just to benchmark everything, because if you have let's say Facebook only, and then you make decisions based on this one channel, you can get screwed, because you will kill the game based on one channel, and then what?
Then what?
It's just really not ideal scenario, because what I found out this in one game that I managed before, it's just we were running Facebook and it wasn't looking that well, and then it was either kill the game or just try another channel. And we tried Google and Unity. Google was really shitty because of what I mentioned, but then Unity started looking really good. So we kept on going with the game based on the multiple channels that we had, and then benchmarked it, and then global launched even afterwards, and it was pretty nice success.
So it is true. UA can save your game. That's your UA myth.
That's your UA myth. It's not like, depends on like what do you mean by save your game?
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there. Okay, we'll get there. So
Matej is now taking requests for new clients. He can fix any game.
Yeah,
UA.
I can fix any game out there. Yeah, well, it's not how it works, but we'll get there. So I will just come back to the monetization, which I think is really important in terms of the early monetization for the game, and you are anyway trying to measure the CPI versus LTV, or trying to look at the day 1, 3, or 7 ROAS, and while testing the purchase campaigns, because that's where the money comes from. And even if you're in the monetization stage and you're trying to optimize the campaigns for something else, you won't get any ROI from those campaigns, unfortunately. There are a lot of discussions about you should use the proxy events for purchases. Yeah, you can use that. On paper, it looks pretty amazing. In reality, it doesn't work, because you're going to get different type of players. So, for example, you have you talk to your data team and you see, so if players actually achieve level 25, they are more likely to make a purchase. So you go back, you set that level 25 as an optimization goal, because you think this is going to bring you a lot more money, because it's going to be cheaper, because no one else is actually optimizing for these type of events. What you will get is cheaper traffic, but also not shitty traffic, but very different type of players. They won't eventually pay. They will be just the type of players that achieve the level 25, and that's where it ends. Unfortunately, this is how all the algorithms kind of work. So you need to be very careful. But it's a very good exercise to actually try and test it out, because even this is my own experience, it just won't work. But I definitely encourage you to test it and see for yourself. So you just don't blame me for saying that. Oh, but it's my experience. Unfortunately, data won't lie. So so what else? Like how do you think about scaling the game, and what is the profitable UA, and how does that even work? So as I mentioned in the monetization stage, it basically comes down to the CPI versus the LTV equation. I mean, scaling a game is possible up until the LTV allows you to do so. The LTV always dictates the level of spend. So unfortunately, there's no other way how to go about it. You can do some creative tricks and decrease the CPIs to a certain level. You can work very closely with the product team to make everything happen, but it's not, it's not enough. Yeah.
Creative
Felix?
Tricks. What are like top 3 creative tricks? Is that like, IP,
Fake ads.
Fake ads? Like, is that like, or is
Fake
anything
ads,
else here?
fake ads innovation, like we discussed with Raid, Shadow Legends, doing the slightly different creative angles. Then, for what I see at the moment is hyper-casual concepts turned into your game. So you're taking your assets and then just try to mimic the hyper-casual games that are in the top charts at the moment. And it's something that kind of works well, at least for me. So that's
another
one
evolution of fake ads.
Another evolution of fake ads, but at least you are closer to your game.
No,
yeah,
bottom line, good tips. Yeah.
Bottom line is UA cannot increase your LTV, which needs to be increased by your production team. Period.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you can use multiple channels that have very different quality of the players and different LTVs as well. But again, it's very much capped by the LTV anyway.
Yeah.
So that's very true. What else? Yeah, I know when we usually start with the new game and we global launch the game, like everything looks super amazing because of the golden cohorts. Golden cohorts mean like the first players that actually come into your game. They're
traffic.
very active and they pay quite a lot. And then suddenly after 2, 3, or 4 months, you see like, oh well, everything is decreasing. What the hell? So UA is doing a shitty job, but well, not really. But everything is changing. So from what I see, sometimes like you are seeing very good numbers in terms of the ROI from the beginning, but then you're kind of moving the ROI target from like day 30 to day 60 to day 90. But we need to be very careful about like doing that. So if you don't have the long-term retention, you can move the ROI payback period to whatever you want. But if you don't have players after day 60, then you will never see that.
When would you kind of consider the team, or let's say for the team to collect this data even? Because you global launch and then to get like day 60 retention, it takes 2 months. So how aggressively do you spend then in a way? Like as you said, like if you don't have long-term retention, but you don't know it. In a way.
Well, you have the soft launch data.
Okay, you have the soft launch data, but soft launch is soft launch. You did your improvements. There's a bigger traffic. It works differently now. Blah blah yada yada.
Yeah, of course. But that's why you are in soft launch for more than 3 to 6 months, because then you can get actually. Oh, yeah. Well, Catherine agrees. Then you can actually get data for more than like 1 or 2 months, and then try to assume or extrapolate from what you saw in the soft launch, because what you will get after global launch is going to be better, but then it's going to come down to the levels of soft launch, the late soft launch, because you're in the soft launch for 6 months. You're just in this like very limited amount of countries, so that's kind of like very close to the truth, that what you will see after a certain period of time after the global launch, let's say maybe 1 month or 2 months. So yeah, you always need to work with data from the soft launch afterwards, because well, exactly, like you don't know, you don't know for sure.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's going to be very different for on a different level of scale as well. Of course, like if you have 100 daily users, you will see 50% day one retention. But then if you increase that to 300 or 500, the retention will be slightly lower, because it's not gonna jump that much from one number to another.
Yeah, like assuming that you keep a steady flow of content and features going into the game, kind of trying to improve it, not really pivot it, but doing the live ops thing and making it better, so it's gonna like even monetize differently, hopefully with higher LTV.
Yep. Yeah, of course.
Can you make it a bit more modern? Like, do you see any trends right now or anything like that? Or, like, how's it?
Yeah. You already laughed at me about, like, UA diversification of channels. Which is kind of like a big trend that I'm talking about since the beginning of the year, because it's not only about one big channel or two big channels that you're spending heavily. It's now smaller budgets on multiple channels, which is obviously more work, but it's paying off, because it's not an easy job and it's really challenging from time to time. So you need to be on top of everything and try to move the budgets from one channel to another channel that actually makes sense, because it's changing really on a weekly basis. And even what we discussed, I think, a couple of sessions ago about the different optimization methods. So if we are running a purchase campaign, it can have longer payback periods, but when we are live on the AdROAS campaigns, you can see the money back really quickly, in day 7, maybe in day 14 even. So you need to keep an eye on the campaign level. ROI, yeah.
Question,
Mr. Felix.
So,
yeah,
AdROAS campaigns, like, it's very interesting for me to hear, because like it directly impacts a lot what I do. Like, especially if you're scaling with AdROAS campaigns, it's something I can see straight away in a game I'm managing for Admon. Like, who would you say right now does the best AdROAS campaigns? Like, I know it's not a lot of partners that do it.
Google right away. And even Rudy asked me this question on the site when I was in Istanbul. Like, oh wow, can you say a little bit more about that? Of course, the AdROAS campaigns are really great. You just need to implement one event and then just collect the value from the mediation and send it through Firebase to Google, and it's paying off really. It's really powerful type of campaign. For the heavy, you need to have like at least 50-50 split between ads versus in-apps, and then you can make it work.
So not like in a heavy usual 70-30 IP game.
It can work, but it's not going to work on the same scale as if you had more. Yeah. So it can be a part of the UA mix.
When you say it really works, like what kind of scale are you talking about? Like how much per day are you spending then if you go like, oh, this really works? Is it like 10K a day? 100K a day? Like, what's the context here?
No, 100K a day, you wish, or I wish. It's, anything from 1K a day to 10K a day. And I worked with one game where we spent like 5K a day on this type of campaign, and it was getting back in like 7 days. And there are also like different nuances in there, but we can keep that for later sessions to keep you interested, our dear listeners.
Okay, shall we go to the UA myth?
Yes.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, so let's return to the first one. UA can save your game. That's usually.
It can save your game.
Yeah. Why?
It's all bit. Yeah, it's what we discussed with the LTV. So UA can acquire good quality users, but only to the level of your game LTV. It's just you need to increase the game LTV. You won't increase it by just acquiring different type of users. It doesn't work like that. You can decrease the CPI on your traffic, but sometimes with lowering the CPIs, you can even lower the
LTV,
the quality of the traffic as well, and the LTV. So it's
seen this.
It's very, very difficult to always talk to these people like, you are the UA expert, so you can make it work. I can make it work to the extent of the game KPIs and metrics. If the game KPIs are not good enough, then we won't be able to scale that. Or,
in translation, I can work it to the degree of the LTV scale, and after that, I'm kind of back where I was.
Yeah, exactly. So we can like experiment with different campaign setup, geo setup, optimization setup, different UA channels, and creatives, of course. So we have all these different things that we can optimize and experiment with, but it's not gonna work the same way as with different games. So because I'm getting this question like, I have the very similar game than let's say Merch Mansion. How is it possible that I can scale it to the same level? Well, first of all, look at the KPIs. Is your retention the same as theirs? Is the level of content the same as theirs? The live ops and everything. So is it?
But even if it would be,
most probably no.
You're still not first to the market.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say the next. Like, they're first to the market, and your game is like 10,000th merge game out there already. So you need to take that into consideration as well. So if you create a new genre, then your CPIs are going to be super low, so you don't need that high LTV. But now you need the high LTV, and you need the way better KPIs to be able to get certain, like, certain amount of spend. That's it. That's just how it is.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. UA is the problem why your game is not performing good.
It's the same thing that we discussed right away, like right now. We need to say, like, there is a lot of UA agencies and consultants that are really shit. So they can, do a very bad job.
It's gonna sound wrong, but like, what makes them shit? Is it like experience or lack of depth of knowledge of how the UA systems are constructed?
No, they just don't care. You just, you have budget here, spend it. And if you spend it against the KPIs and you don't see the return immediately, then they don't do anything. They just spend the budget and that's it. Because the budget spend is what they care about, because they're getting budget fee from the budget spend.
Yep. So the incentive is different.
Exactly. Incentive is different.
What would you say would be like some kind of obvious sign for a non-UA person to kind of get a quick hang on that, UA is not really running as it should?
That's a great question. Yeah.
Well, define what means runs as it should. So if you have the weekly meetings or catch-ups, or you're looking at the data and it's not making sense in terms of the ROI, then you ask questions like why we are not making money, and there are always different explanations. So either it's just the new channel you are trying to get from one optimization to another optimization. That's for example, Unity, you need to run MAI campaign to get to the ROAS channel, ROAS optimization, and that campaign will never get any money back. So that's a normal thing.
Let me try complete noob question. So let's say I have a suspicion that you're feeding players that are not interested in the genre that I'm running into my game. So pumping match 3 people into RPG. How should I know that?
Well, you can ask about what kind of targeting the UA person is running at the moment. But the thing is, with the level of automation these days and the AAA campaigns on Facebook, and the same thing on the Google side, which is the UAC Universal App Campaigns, which is now App Campaigns, but you don't have that option anymore, and you only think how can you target the players is by the creative, basically. So you won't avoid running or acquiring players from match free to your RPG game. It's just based on the level of data you are sending back to Facebook or Google. That's the main ROI metric. So basically, it's not about the match free or any other type of
genre.
Players. It's about genre. It's now more about what kind of events you are tracking and what kind of events you are sending back to the channel. So even if you are getting match free players into your RPG, it doesn't mean that they won't play and pay until they are firing events. So even these match free players can be very valuable if they are paying. If they are not paying, then you won't send any events back to the channels, and then you won't get those players, because that's how the optimization works.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me ask one question to kind of maybe take us home. Should DSPs always be part of your UA mix?
DSPs.
Yeah.
Well, DSPs. I don't like to work with DSPs, and I usually include them after the regular UA channels like Facebook, Google, ad networks afterwards. Why? It's just my personal preference. So other people can say very different answer very differently.
Okay. Yeah, this is also one of my other favorites. Game will work even without the UA.
Yeah, it will work if you can get the level of organics as hill climb racing or Subway Surfers, which is 10 years ago, 15 years ago maybe. Now it's very hard to get the organics, and even if you get organics, it's not sustainable. You don't have the control over the organics anymore.
Let's make this clear. It's impossible. Period.
Okay.
Or do you have
First
any other
Time Racing
opinions?
won the lottery. Like, it did so
Yeah.
well. Like, yeah, congratulations to them. Like, that's the original Cinderella story.
Yeah, very true.
OG Cinderella.
OG, yeah. OG Cinderella. And with that in mind, I think we can stop here to let our listeners to process all the information, because I think it was like a lot of KPIs, numbers, and whatever else. Zero bullshit though. So there you go.
Yep.
Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much, guys, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
DSPs should always be part of your UA mix. Or as I'm asking, should they always be part of your UA mix?
Sorry, I just received a new podcast member again. So, what piece?
I was just wanted to ask, like the last one, just